All right, last video. Like, subscribe, post a comment, tell your friends about me. And if you have a question about personal finance, all you have to do is email me and I'll make you an anonymous video. So now we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about my CPA journey because this is my channel and I get all the attention on my channel. And I get to tell you about why I became a CPA, okay? And this whole thing starts with the United States Army. So when I was a young man and I graduated high school, I was 17 years old. And I said, I want to be in the Army. I'm going to do 20 years in the military. And I'm going to be the coolest of the cool. I am going to be an infantry officer. And that's what I did. I went to college and I got an ROTC scholarship. And while I was there, I was like, well, in order to be competitive to get active duty, I need to get a good GPA. And I said, well, I could do computer science and maybe I get a crappy GPA and not get active duty. You know, maybe I could do accounting. I don't know what that is. I don't know anything about accounting at the time. I thought it was just boring crap. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a history degree. And at the time, it was kind of a smart decision, assuming you were going to do 20 years in the military, because a lot of your ranking is based on your GPA. So if you have a high GPA, regardless of your degree, maybe it's changed now. If you have a high GPA, you're more likely to get active duty in the military. So that's what I did. I did history. My GPA shot up. I got like a 3.6 something in history. And I graduated and I got active duty and I was able to choose the branch I wanted, infantry, because of my high GPA. And I was like, I'm going to do 20, 30 years in the military and it's going to be great. And of course, as soon as I started training, I was like, wow, I really don't like this. This kind of sucks. I have to march all day and, it's hot. And I know it might sound like a sob story, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like shooting guns that much. I'm not really an outdoorsy person, even though I like to work out and stuff. And I just didn't generally like the job of an infantry officer. So I was like, crap, maybe I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I eventually get to my unit. And, I was a platoon leader, which was fantastic. I had a great time doing that. And then I was a staff monkey where I was a senior first lieutenant or a captain. And I was just like doing PowerPoint and getting yelled at because the lines on the PowerPoint were wrong or they weren't bold enough or just stupid crap. And it was just mind numbing and boring. And eventually I was like, all right, I'm going to get out of the military. But it was really hard for me to get out because I didn't have any freaking skills. I looked at the civilian world and I'm like, well, what am I going to do? What possibly could I do? And then I looked at the military and I was like, wow, I'm getting paid a lot here, but I freaking hate it. So eventually I took the dive and I did get out of the military. And I settled on being a financial advisor. And I did that for a couple months. I realized that was a complete scam. You can watch my other videos about that. And finally I said, I need to get a skill. I need to get a real skill because I was terrified. I was an infantry officer, ex-infantry officer, no freaking skills. I was unemployable. Like who was going to hire me? So I said, I will never, ever be unskilled in this position again. And then I discovered accounting. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll try this. And I started doing it. I got my bachelor's in accounting. So I had to get a second bachelor's degree, which was a pain. And I realized that, wow, I can actually get a job in accounting. Now, my goal was to become a CPA and to work for a public accounting firm. And then eventually I was going to leave that and transfer to the federal government. So I actually applied for a firm, near my parents. And I actually got accepted for an internship while I was in school because you want to apply for internships while you're in school over the summer. So you get exposure and they can vet you and make sure you're not a clown. So I did that. And at the same time, I got the internship at the private firm or the public accounting firm. And then I also got a job acceptance to work for the federal government. So I said, well, I could do this public accounting thing, or I could just go straight into the federal government, which is my long-term plan anyway. So I did that. So then I started working for the federal government. I finished my bachelor's in accounting and I said, do I still need my CPA? I was kind of on the fence because when you're in the government, you don't need a CPA. It's just like, whatever, you can just be there and you get automatic promotions and, you don't need a CPA. It's whatever, it's hard. Who needs to do that in the government? And then I was like, you know what? Since nobody has a CPA, I'm going to do it because that will help me stand out. And I went ahead and did it. Now let's talk about the CPA exam. Now there's 4 tests. There's 4 tests, and each one of those tests is 4 hours. And I apologize if this has changed. I took it about a year and a half ago. There's 4 tests. There's a financial accounting and reporting, which basically covers financial statements, basically all what you normally think of as accounting, like debiting and crediting and assets and liabilities. And then you have auditing, which is where you basically learn how to go to a company and look at their stuff and see if they're actually full of crap or not on their financial statements. That was auditing. That's the second exam. Then you have regulation, which is the tax exam, because tax is a whole nother section of accounting. You learn all about the tax code, accounting for gains and losses and all sorts of crap. Tax is a pain. And then you have BEC, which is business environment and concepts. So that's basically like the catch-all exam for general business stuff or, a little bit of finance, basically a bunch of crap that just cobbled together into an exam. So you have 4 exams and they each cover a different field of accounting or just random crap for the last one. So my strategy was to take the hardest exam first, which is FAR, Financial Accounting and Regulation, or traditionally is the hardest exam. Now, when you look at the pass rates, you'll see that some exams people tend to fail more than others, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take that exam first. However, I will recommend when it comes to financial accounting and auditing, you want to take FAR first because FAR will give you that very strong foundation in what accounting actually is, building financial statements, analyzing transactions. It'll give you all of that. And then once you have that solid foundation, once you know what you're doing, you can apply those skills to the auditing exam, which is basically looking at financial accounting and making sure that it's not a bunch of crap, right? What's up, man? Welcome. Of course, you can add comments if you want. This was my journey, but you can tell me if you had a different experience. So I went ahead and did financial accounting first. And it takes a lot of studying. So if you think you're just going to, snap your fingers, graduate college, you basically are a CPA. No, you're going to have to study your butt off. And basically I would go to work and then I would come home every freaking day and I would study this crap. I had to go buy software. It was like $1,500. And I studied every freaking day. And I would take one day off on the weekend, to kind of recuperate myself. But when you're studying, you really need to want it. Because if you don't, and let's say you fail an exam or whatever, you're going to quit the process because it's just a lot of BS. So if you want to be a CPA, keep in mind you're going to be slaving away every freaking day and maybe taking a day or 2 off. Now, the technique that I did for financial accounting is I went ahead and I opened my software and I watched all the videos. I just watched them all to kind of get some of the material in my head. And once I did that, then I went back and I started doing practice questions. Now, when I did these practice questions, I failed a lot of them. I got a lot of them wrong, but that's okay because when you do these practice questions, they're going to actually give you an explanation and you're going to see how you did it wrong. So once you have that foundational knowledge from the videos, just dive into the practice questions. Don't be scared. A lot of people are scared to do practice questions because they think they're a failure if they get them wrong, but that's exactly what you want to do because the more you get wrong, the faster you learn. So I just did practice questions until my eyes bled every freaking day. And then if I was really confused, I'd go back and I'd watch a video in my software or I'd watch Ed Spira on YouTube or Farhat. There's a bunch of YouTube channels that cover financial accounting. And eventually it started to click. After that, I dedicated a little bit of time to simulations. Now on the exam, you have 4 or 5 different testlets is what they're called. There's different sections. You'll have 33 questions. That's a testlet. Then you'll have 33 more questions. And then you'll have simulations, which are these longer comprehensive problems that you have to do. So the normal advice is to just focus on questions, but I don't think it hurts to do a little bit of practice simulations in your software because you're still learning as you're going through it. And it really helps you tie the information together. So towards the end of my study period, I went through and did a couple simulations, maybe about half of all the simulations that my software offered. And at that point, once I was done with that, all I had to do was literally circle back and just do practice problems on each section. So if there was 10 sections in FAR, I would do 25 of the first one, then I would do 25 of the second one, 25 of the third one, and so on and so on. And then I'd circle back, because what that does is that kind of helps you retain the majority of your knowledge. Now, one thing to keep in mind is on the CPA exam, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to be this perfect genius in financial accounting. But as long as you understand most topics decently well and you answer every question, you're probably going to pass the exam as long as you're not completely screwing it up. So keeping that in mind, if you're really stuck on something like maybe leases don't make sense to you, and honestly, I was sucked at leases. I did when I went to the exam, I was just hoping I didn't get a leases simulation, and I didn't, thankfully. But if you suck at one thing, don't just like fixate on it and just spend days and days and days going into it. If you suck, just move on, do another subject, and then circle back around to it, because you're keeping everything fresh in your mind. Now, if you don't do that, if you just fixate on one subject, you may think you know something you did in the past. You're going to forget it because there's just so much stuff. So only by doing it over and over again, doing that loop technique that I'm talking about, that's the only way to maintain your knowledge. Now, when you're about 2 weeks out from the exam, when I was 2 weeks out, I was doing that loop technique, 25, 25, 25, 25, every section. And then the second to last day before the exam, I literally sat down, I think it was on like a Saturday or whatever, Sunday, and I watched every video at double speed one more time just to get that final little booster. And then the day before the exam, I had this little book of note cards, and I didn't really study hard. I just flipped through the note cards, and I got like, just a little bit of general information. And that's all I did. And then boom, I went and took the exam and I got like a 91 on FAR. So if you kind of follow that technique where you watch the videos, you reference Ed Spira and other people, and then you just hammer practice problems and you don't freak out if you initially get them wrong, you're going to be fine. And then you need to do that loop technique. So that's what I did. So I did financial accounting. I passed that. And then what did I do? So I'm telling you to do auditing after financial accounting, but I think I did regulation next, because I was like, you know what? Financial accounting, that sucked. I'm done with that. Regulation, the tax exam, also sucked. And I actually really sucked at tax in college. So I was like, I'm just going to go and just get all the hardest crap done first. So I did regulation and I followed the same technique. Now, if you really need help, there's nothing against hiring a tutor. And I'm actually a tutor on a website called Wisant. So if you need a tutor, it doesn't have to be me. But if you need a tutor, go on there and they might help you get unstuck. And it's worth the money, because not getting the CPA will cost you way more money. So go through the whole material, just like I said, go talk to the tutor, and boom, hopefully you get it. And when you take the exam, as long as you know a little bit of everything and you don't freaking panic, you're going to pass the exam, hopefully. All right. So I passed regulation. Then I went on to auditing, did the same thing, passed that. And then I did BEC for last. Now, the funny thing about BEC or BEC or whatever you want to call it, everybody says it's the easiest exam. And when I took it, I literally thought I bombed it. I was pretty sure I passed every other exam. But when I took BEC, I was like, holy crap, I think I failed this. And I was freaking out about it. So the whole point, I passed it. I passed all 4 exams on the first try because I did not want to take them again. But when you take BEC, don't underestimate it, because people are like, oh, it's easy, you don't have to worry about it. That's BS. They're all hard. So you need to dedicate a lot of time to each exam, okay? But my general advice overall is you need to be dedicated, number one. You need to realize that your social life is going to be affected. You're not going to be able to go out as much. You're going to have to go straight home after a hard day of work, and you're going to have to study. And you're going to get frustrated because stuff's not going to make sense. And you're just going to have to drive on, okay? Another tip. You need to have a strategy exactly. You need to have a strategy when you're taking the exam. So, you want to know what exams you're taking back to back to back. And if, let's say you do auditing first, you're going to have a hard time doing auditing if you don't have any foundation financial accounting. So at least do financial accounting before auditing, and then regulation and BEC, whatever. But financial accounting, auditing, regulation, BEC, something like that. That'll be the best way to do it. Now, when you're taking the test, you want to schedule it a little later in the day, because you don't want to get up at the crack, unless you're like a morning person. You don't want to get up at the crack of dawn, not have any food in your stomach or barely any food, and you stumble into the exam because it's a 4-hour exam. Now, you could finish it ahead of time, but it's still going to be a long time. So you want to be rested, have a nice ritual in the morning. Don't freaking drink the night before, and don't study your butt off the night before, okay? You don't want to fry your brain. You want your brain to recover from all that stress. So like I did, I just went through the note cards real quick, did it one time, threw them aside, and then enjoyed the rest of my day. So schedule the exam a little bit later in the morning or in the afternoon. Get some rest, maybe have a nice, good lunch. Bring a snack and some kind of energy drink maybe into the test center, and you can lock that in your locker. And then when you get at your break, you can go out there and you can eat some food, replenish yourself, and you can have some energy drinks, all right? And when the final thing, when you're in the exam, you don't panic. You do not panic, because if you panic, you will fail the exam. Now, there were a couple opportunities for me to panic, especially on the simulations where you have these huge, massive problems, and there's like 50 boxes and there's like 10 different things you have to look at. And I think a big part of the exam is they just want to intimidate you and basically have you freak out. But if you just breathe and you fill in everything with your best guess, just try to fill in everything, you're going to be fine. Because I'm pretty sure I probably bombed a couple of the simulations, but I still got like over a 90 in every exam. Because if I'm bombing it, everybody else is bombing it, especially if they're freaking out about it. So you need to do that. And then like Al Cortez says here, the CPA exam is about knowing a little bit about a lot of different subjects. So don't get stuck or fixated on one freaking subject. Like, I don't understand leases or this specific transaction. Because if you do that, you're going to be screwed. All right. Do you recommend people take a review course? I would say take a review course. Now, if you mean like actually going into a class, I don't think you need to do that. I would say if you really are stuck on something, you can get a tutor on one of the online tutoring sites. And there's plenty of people on there that can help you. But like actually going to a class, maybe that helps some people. But for me personally, I had my software. I had videos in the software. I had YouTube. I had practice problems with explanations. And I didn't use a tutor because I'm cheap, but that's always an option too. So you definitely need to buy some kind of review course. Now, I wouldn't say do Becker. Becker's like super expensive. And my company, or not company, my agency didn't pay for it. So I had to go buy Surgent, which is one of the cheaper ones, but they're still pretty good. So you don't need to go crazy with the training software. You just need to have at least decent enough software that you'll be able to pass. Because all you need is a 75. You don't need to get a 99 in each freaking exam. And if you're worrying about getting a 99, then you're just going to stress yourself to death. So that's that. Any more CPA questions? But it's definitely worth it. You want to do it. Because like once I got it, I was like, wow, like the world is open to me. I can be a tax person. I can be an auditor. I can stay at my government job. I can maybe be a professor. I can tutor people and charge a lot of money. There's so many doors that are open. And yeah, it sucks. Okay. But if you do it and you get through it, it took me about 5 months of intense studying. Now I'm done. Now it's easy. I know a lot of accounting and I can make a lot of money doing it. So it's totally worth it. Even if you work for the government, just get it because you can do a lot of side stuff. But that's it. So I think I'm going to go make dinner now. And I have to actually tutor for accounting in a little bit. So thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about me. And you have a wonderful night.